Have you ever been curious as to what happens when an animation studio out of country, in a different country outside of the United States, that is, takes on a classic fairy tale and tries to tell it in their own way? Do you know what happens? Do you know what you get? I'll tell you what you get. I'll tell you what happens. You get animation at its best, you get some decent animation. But you also get some of the most WTF adaptations ever. And that's the truth. One, for example, that has been talked about a lot, and I think Media Hunter did a review, I think Bob Show talked about it. There's a movie called Red Shoes. And no, we're not talking about the Red Shoes softcore series. No. We're talking Red Shoes, which was another country's adaptation of Snow White. Now, you would think Snow White, it's an iconic story, no matter how it's told. It is an iconic story, no matter how it's told, that you can't F up. You cannot F, Snow White up, if you know what I mean. You cannot F her up when it comes to, telling her story. I mean, you might change it here and there to make it more modernized and to promote, and I say it with all due respect, strong feminineness, if you will, strong female leads. You might do that, like what they did with, I think it's down here somewhere, with the Huntsman and Snow White. If you will, with the Huntsman and the movie that came before it, Snow White, that is, and the Huntsman. You might do that, and that's fine as long as you have a little bit of truth to what the original was about, and that's great. But here's the thing, though. When it comes to different adaptations, from across the globe, they may follow suit and do exactly that, but they may also change it up. Because we know that in a lot of the retellings of Snow White, including the one that Disney is doing as sort of an updated remake of the first animated classic, we know that Snow White, goes into a death-like sleep, pretty much dies at the hands of the witch, disguised as a, old hag who poisons her with a poison apple so that she could be the fairest in the land. And like I said, most of the time, a lot of adaptations, even those from across the world, stay true to that. Well, when it comes to Red Shoes, though, that's not the case. Because Red Shoes has been known for several things. One, it was criticized for, basically being a degrading, fat-shaming movie. Like, basically, the version of Snow White here, I'll put it this way, she's big. And I say that in the nicest way. She's big, but, when she becomes, what we see for a majority of the film, the fair petite Snow White, that is the Snow White that is promoted on the cover and on the posters and all that, on the promotional material, period. And what's interesting about it is, the reason she's promoted like this is because of what causes her to revert back. Now, unlike the other adaptations, she doesn't fall in love with the prince or anything. She doesn't fall in love with the prince of any kind, that wakes her up with a kiss from her sleeping death and all that. No. Instead, she ends up falling in love with one of the 7 dwarfs. Now, I think there is some part in the movie where he disguises himself as a human, but then that disguise wears off, and he goes back to being a dwarf because he's fallen in love with her, she's taken a liking to him, and there you go. But then you might ask yourself, okay, Brian, so where does any resemblance of Snow White falling into a sleeping death come into play that might have been changed? I'll tell you where it's come into play. Basically, the evil witch causes Snow White to eat an apple, some kind of special apple, but it doesn't kill her. It doesn't put her into a sleeping death, if you will. No. Instead, it causes her to transform into an apple tree. That's right. The poison apple that Snow White bites that would put her into a sleeping death turns her into a new apple tree, which sprouts apples for the witch to consume to keep herself young. That's right. You see, she had an apple tree similar to that, but it got destroyed. So she basically decided, okay, I'm going to create a new one, and the new one is going to be you, Snow White. And that's what happens. Snow White turns into the new apple tree, thus giving birth, believe it or not, to apples for the queen to eat. Yeah, that's how they basically do the sleeping death. That's how they do the sleeping death for Snow White in Red Shoes. That's one example of an adaptation from across the world going in a completely different direction, but by doing so, trying to do their take on how Snow White fell into that situation. But that's not it. There's a movie that came out earlier this year that just got released on Blu-ray this week, Blu-ray and 4K, I believe, called Belle, the Japanese anime. And if you paid attention to what that is, it's about a girl that goes into a virtual world and she becomes basically a different person. She becomes the Belle character. And the way it's presented is it's Japan's take on the Beauty and the Beast story, but in modern times. Because the person on the other end, portraying the Beast, is someone similar in that nature, but not, or something like that. But yeah, a young girl, schoolgirl, puts on a VR set, goes into virtual reality with an avatar called Belle, who's a singer and everything, and then she encounters this beast-like character that wants to protect her, wants to make her his own as well. It's basically their own take on Beauty and the Beast. Now, I haven't seen Belle yet, and I want to. I'm gonna probably get the movie tomorrow when I get paid. But again, it's one of those adaptations of a classic fairy tale that when you look at it, you know what it's adapting, you know what story that it's trying to tell, if you will. You know what it's trying to do, or trying to try to tell from a story standpoint. And I just repeated myself there, I do apologize. I was trying to check out the window, see if my mom was coming or not. But you know what they're trying to get across. And the way they do it, may be different, but you know what story it ties into or that they're adapting, even if it's a different version, a different take. So yeah, when it comes to other animated studios across the world doing their own takes on classic fairy tales like Snow White, like Beauty and the Beast, even Little Mermaid and Aladdin and such. Even though they might stay true to the original source material or at least have some resemblance of it, there are going to be certain changes to certain moments and scenes iconically that we know of that will really just blow your mind and make you go like, what the blank were they thinking? But let me know what your thoughts are, guys, and I'll talk to you later.